नमस्कार देवी और सज्जनों। स्वाति ने मेरी हिंदी में बोलूं तो प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं? ओके। ऑल्दो माई थॉट्स कम्स इन इंग्लिश बट आई प्रेफर टू स्पीक इन हिंदी। स्वाति ने मेरा काम जो है वो काफ़ी आसान कर दिया है। शी हैज़ गिवन अ ग्राउंड सिचुएशन और जो इस वक्त धरातल पे हो रहा है उसको काफ़ी हद तक सामने ले आई है और आई रियली थैंकफुल स्वाति। अब नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आता है जिसका टॉपिक मुझे भी दिया गया है कि हिंदू वॉइसेस को आज के कन्वेंशनल मीडिया में, मैं भी एक कन्वेंशनल मीडिया का हिस्सा हूँ, उसमें कैसे उसको बढ़ाया जाए। बढ़ाने का मतलब ये है कि जो स्वाति ने सिचुएशन बताई है कि हिंदू वॉइसेस जो है कन्वेंशनल मीडिया में कम है, ये एक एक्सेप्टेड फैक्ट है और इस चीज़ को हम सब रियलाइज़ भी करते हैं। और अब उस सिचुएशन से निकला कैसे जाए? एक तो जैसे आनंद भी बता रहे थे, एक तो ये है कि हमारी जो स्टोरीज़ हैं उन स्टोरीज़ को हमें बार बार दोबारा अलग अलग प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे बोलना पड़ेगा, समझाना पड़ेगा। अगर हम भारत के इतिहास को थोड़ा सा समझने की कोशिश करें, जो मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री है, इसको मैं 3 हिस्सों में बांटता हूँ। 1947 से लेके 1977 तक, जब तक कांग्रेस ने रूल किया डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली, एक ही परिवार ने रूल किया। 77 से लेके 2014 तक, जब एक मिली जुली सरकारों का भारत में चलन रहा, पॉलिटिकल डिस्कोर्स में एक मिला जुला सा असर रहा, तो उसमें हमने बहुत सारी रीजनल पार्टीज़ को उभरते हुए देखा जो एक कास्ट बेस्ड सिनेरियोस को लेकर चलते थे। और वहाँ पे एक अलग तरीके का जो सेकुलरिज्म हमें पढ़ाया गया, उसकी उनको ज़रूरत थी और मीडिया ने चाहे और अनचाहे उस सेकुलरिज्म को बढ़ाने के लिए एक अलग नैरेटिव जो है उसको बुनने की कोशिश करी। हमारे सामने उदय माहौरकर हैं जिन्होंने आई विल ब्रीफली रीडू माय स्टफ दैट आई डिवाइड इंडियाज हिस्ट्री इनटू 3 सेगमेंट्स। One is from 1947 to 77, when only one family tried to rule this country, and there was a narrative set according to their whims and fancies. From 77 to 2014, when country faced a mixed party rule, where there was a surge of several caste-based organizations, caste-based political parties, and they required a certain community's support base to win elections. And to get that thing done, they required a certain type of secularism to be inculcated. We have seen that how militancy in Punjab was reported. We have also seen how exodus of Kashmiri Pandit was reported. And it was part of the same discourse that they wanted to showcase a certain type of secularism and certain type of accumulation of the community. From 2014 onwards, country has seen a surge in a particular discourse. I'm not going for any political party's dispensation, but this is reflection of, there is an upsurge in a Hindu sentiment, an upsurge in a common man's sentiment that he has been left out, and his stories are not being told. Now, since we are talking about that, how Hindu voices needs to come forward and what sort of experiences conventional media goes through. See, as a proud Hindu, as a proud Bharatiya, I tried to bring in, Bharat First ideology, which I have learned from Uday Mahaurkar. He was my senior at India Today, and he never relented to speak about his thought process, and he has proudly written many of the articles which are inspiration to many of us. Yeah. See, I took my platform to expose how conversion is happening in Punjab, how Sikhs, who are warrior community, they have been converted into a crude form of Christianity. There is a deliberate attempt which is happening in Punjab, where a large section of community is being taken away from the Hindu fold, and it has been deliberately taken out because we all know the history that Sikhs, that the Panth was formed to defend the Hindu faith, and now there is a full-fledged conspiracy which is going on in that state, where Sikhs are being taken out of the Hindu fold. So I used my platform. I reported on the changes which are happening in that society. So in a way, I brought this story. But there has to be more such stories which need to come on the conventional platforms. And that can't be brought to fore by journalists alone. There has to be an ecosystem where we can use those instances, those researches, those new form of storytelling to reinstate and restart the conversations, to bring those stories forward. See, I have written the story. Now what should I do? Can I go back and write again about it? For that, professionally, I require a trigger. So trigger can be brought by the ecosystem. And that ecosystem requires to be stationed at every nook and corner of this country. See, we are going through a war with the leftist ideology, a war with the Naxalites, war with the so-called liberals. I don't call them liberals, but so-called liberals. And then there is a Western interest also in our country, which don't want, upsurge into the Bharat sentiment and the sentiment of Hindus, us Hindus. And globally, we have shown to the world that, we have an ethos and we can add values to any geography where we go. And that, creates problem for them. And this is actually being faced by us, that there's an ecosystem which has been created and cooperated by many of these elements, which hinders when we try to build up a story, that here is a story, like many of the stories which Swati say, I also know. Yeah. My media organization has also reported, and reported on a very positive note, because, many of the journalists, they also see the things. But problem comes that these stories are not repeated many times. But leftists and those liberal ideologues, they have ecosystem. And they have created that ecosystem for last 75 years in India. And they use historians, so-called intellectuals. They used small organizations to reinstate those stories. We also have to build, or Hindu organizations also have to build, those ecosystems, those research organizations, those historians, build credibility to them. We are already into the second regime of Prime Minister Modi. But I am sorry to say that, that ecosystem is still wanted. There have been stories which have been told by Uday Bhai about Veer Savarkar, and Vikram Sampath also wrote, book about Veer Savarkar. Thankfully, because of these intellectuals, Veer Savarkar is in the center of discussion. We now know that what sort of sacrifices that human being made to make this country great. And still, we find it very difficult to position those stories in many of the conventional media houses. But there are more stories to be told. There has to be story told that why Muhammad Ghazni couldn't attack for the 18th time. How Gauri was resisted by many of the Naga sadhus in this world. Many of these stories need to be told by historians. Then only, journalists like us can go and talk more about it. So my small interjection here is that ecosystem which is lacking, not only about many of these instances, but there is also an ecosystem which is impeding about creation of a workforce which is sympathetic to our course. How many media schools have professors who are sympathetic to our course? Then, leftist media has, or leftist organizations have a scholarship programs which they give to the young journalists. How many of us, have that access? Most of the knowledge which we gain is from our colleagues. I mentioned Uday Maharkar deliberately because I wanted to give example that from time to time he used to guide me that, what is the Hindu principle? What is the Bharat principle? Why we should keep Bharat first? But how many of us have access to Uday Maharkar, right? There has to be more institutions like Uday Maharkar. There has to be an institutional positioning where, many of the journalists who want to write about Bharat, who want to write about Hindu principle need to be taught that, okay, these are the principles, like many of the things which Anand was mentioning, that what is Hindu principle? That principle needs to be told, retold, and reinforced into journalist's mind. Then only he can go back to his newsroom, discuss stories, bring those principles in. See, there is a battle. You know, many of our colleagues are also liberals and leftists. But when we are into newsroom, newsrooms largely are democratic. But we also need to have that much of knowledge to speak and to take our agenda forward. We can't be positioned that, you know, this guy is only talking about a certain values without any empirical evidences. And I'm really sorry to say that in many of the cases, empirical evidences are lacking. We have to create institutions where empirical evidences need to be created, need to be presented, need to be positioned, and those empirical evidences can be reflected into conventional media. Sorry to sound little apologetic, but more work has to be done to create those ecosystems. Plus, there is a need of more credible voices where we all can go and talk and use those voices into our stories. You use those experiences into our stories. Right now, in current scenario, these numbers are increasing. So that's why I was giving 2014 example, that now people are also sympathetic and people are also talking out. People are also making those points, like, you know, the great work Swati is doing, like Gems of Bollywood. Now at least we have a topic to discuss. Now at least we have some evidence to showcase that, okay, Gems of Bollywood has, you know, done this. Mr. Anurag Kashyap, please speak on this. Right, Swati?
Yes.
Now at least because of her work, we have some evidences, something to speak about. Yeah. So that needs to be inculcated, and that requires investments, that requires political will, that requires a commitment to the cause, and that can't be done by individuals. You know, Swati is doing this work with her friends, but, you know, these narrative have to be built and our stories need to be told. You know, I want to give one example before, you know, I stop and I pass on my mic to Anand to conduct the conversation further. See, how many of us know that, you know, Bhagat Singh was not a communist? In last 80 years, 90 years, there has been conversation that, you know, during his jail term, he was converted into communism because he was influenced by Lenin. But this is a selective storytelling. And selective storytelling because Bhagat Singh was not only reading one book, but he was reading 5 books. He was reading about Veer Savarkar's work. He was reading Maharana Pratap's Jeevani. He was reading Heer Ranja's story. And one of the book was Lenin's, Lenin's how Lenin led this Russian Revolution. See, we also have to understand that at that time, Lenin was a hero of all those anti-imperialist forces who wanted to set their country free from the imperialist. Even I read Marx, I read Lenin. That doesn't make me Marxist or Leninist. But leftist media used one article called "Why I Am an Atheist," which was published 4 years after his death. We all have manuscripts of all the Bhagat Singh works except this article. But this article is published at every birth anniversary of Bhagat Singh and as his martyrdom day. And this is been cited by leftist ideologues, historians, and certain people who have written books on the freedom struggle of this country. Why I am giving this as an example, that how a lie is presented as a truth, and thanks to the ecosystem which these guys have created, the historians, the intellectuals, and those researchers which start taking and start making these references. You know, in 2002, I used one of the RSS publications to write. I was a student at Punjab University in Chandigarh, and as a student, I used RSS publication to cite many of the examples that Bhagat Singh was actually an Arya Samaji, and he used Arya Samaj's mandirs to hide. His family was a Arya Samaji Sikh family. Then, you know, I searched and I went to Lahore to read many of the papers. I went to London also to read many of the papers, but I could not find manuscript of this article. And when I started talking to many of the Arya Samajis, you know, because I wanted to locate, I'll take just 1 minute to conclude, to locate, you know, because I could find all the papers, all the letters which Bhagat Singh has written in jail, except this one. Then I laid my hand on the letter which he wrote to his brother. You know, he was telling him that, you know, how he should behave, how he should, you know, conduct, and how he should take care of his parents, and what is his moral responsibility as. So he then, you know, in concluding para, he was saying that, you know, he also wanted to do seva of his mother and father, but you know, he chose this path. And last line, what he wrote, I'll use the Punjabi phrase that "Baki jo Rab nu manzoor." You know, the guy who was writing "Why I Am an Atheist," in his last letter, last line, which is available, he's saying that "Baki jo Rab nu manzoor," it nullifies it. But how many of us, how many intellectuals who claim that, you know, they want to take up the Hindu cause, or they can't want to...
saying who wrote the article?
Which one?
Who wrote that article? Why am I an atheist? What's the genesis of that article?
See, this article was published in a Tamil propaganda magazine, which was published under the atheist of Periyar.
E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. So.
And the article which we read now is a Tamil translation from Tamil. It was translated first into English and then also into Punjabi, which was mother tongue of Bhagat Singh. But Bhagat Singh wrote in 3 languages, Urdu, Punjabi, and in Hindi. And he emphasized that why Hindi should be the, you know, a thread which should take every Indian together. But all these things are missing. All these things are missing because the ecosystem is missing. Sorry?
Yeah.
Baki jo Rab nu manzoor.
Baki jo Rab nu
That
manzoor.
means that whatever, you know, God destines, you know.
Rest, whatever God wills. Or,
God wills,
or
yeah. It's
Bhagwan
up to the
decides,
God's
yeah.
will. Yeah. Sorry. I still believe that I am in Delhi and speaking to more a Hindi audience. Sorry. So see, the Bhagat Singh is considered as a communist comrade only because ecosystem is missing. And there was a deliberate attempt to paint Bhagat Singh as a communist because in 70s and 80s, that dispensation required a communist face in Punjab, where, you know, there was a plot to divide the Punjabi community, and they used Bhagat Singh. But unfortunately, you know, we are still, you know, falling into that prey. And these many stories need to come forth. You know, Uday Bhai has done Veer Savarkar, Vikram has done Veer Savarkar, and we all are debating. Now, maybe the chance is there to, you know, liberate Bhagat Singh out of the clutches
You've got the idea for your next cover. So after the pastors of Punjab, it is Bhagat Singh Arya Samaji. Baki jo Rab nu manzoor should be the cover story with Bhagat Singh there.
Anand, to your happiness and pleasure, I can tell you that I have been writing about this.